Hi, my name is Mary Narcy.
Hi, my name is John Babanta. America is the land of the free. What is one thing that freedom means? The ability to make our voices heard.
The ability to make our voices heard. One way you can do that is to vote for government leaders and policies you believe in.
Stanislaus County voters, make your voices heard and vote November 8th, 2022.
The next general election is on November 8th, 2022.
In Stanislaus County, all active registered voters will receive a ballot in the mail as early as October 10th.
You must be registered by October 24th to receive a ballot.
To register, go to registertovote.ca.gov.
Return your ballot by mail or by an official ballot drop box.
If you choose to vote in person, visit a vote center.
Or you can register to vote or update registration.
At vote centers, you can also drop off vote-by-mail ballots, register or update voter registration, and get help in languages such as Assyrian, Khmer, or Punjabi.
Or you can ask an election worker for a translated copy of these ballots in these languages.
You can visit any vote center within Stanislaus County. Vote early to avoid lines on Election Day. The first results released on election night include early votes placed by mail or ballot drop box before Election Day.
See list of voting locations and postcard mailing or on www.standvote.com. Thank you.
Good evening to all our AGN viewers this evening, and thank you for joining us. Tonight, we have one of the candidates currently running for the office of San Jose Mayor. Our special guest tonight is Cindy Chavez. Good evening, Cindy.
Good evening. I'm so excited to be with you and the AGN viewers.
Thank you. Welcome, and we're glad to have you with us. Cindy, you are currently serving as County Supervisor for District 2 after having been reelected not once but twice to the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors. Your current position as a county supervisor won't be termed out until 2024. Tell us what prompted you to now run for San Jose Mayor.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the excellent question. What really prompted me to run for mayor of San Jose was the incredible work we did as a community to address COVID-19. Because one of the things that I learned is that when we put all of our egos aside and we're able to get business, labor, government, for-profit, nonprofit groups together, that we can do amazing things. And what we did here is we have one of the highest vaccinated counties, one of the highest vaccinated cities in San Jose. And we were able to do that because we brought everybody together. And seeing that made me very, very hopeful and very excited about addressing public safety and homelessness, affordable housing, and getting San Jose cleaned up again.
Great, thank you. Please let our viewers know about some of your accomplishments besides the ones you just named during the last 20 plus years, and what initially sparked your interest in pursuing a career in public office.
So in 1997, this was a long time ago, my husband and I bought our first home. And one of the things that happened is we were very active in the community, active in our neighborhood association, active in the Democratic Party. We were just activists. And one of the things that happened is that when we bought our new home, there was a shooting in front of our home that resulted in a bullet landing, tearing through our bedroom wall and landing in our bed. And when
Wow.
that occurred, it's kind of terrifying, right? But when
Very
that occurred,
terrifying.
I got the bullet and I put it in a baggie. I got it ready for the police. And when the officer came to pick it up, he said, okay, well, you don't live in a very safe part of town. You should think about moving. Because I was really interested in what do I do next? And for any of your viewers who've ever bought a home, especially your first home, you don't buy a home and then think how you can leave. You buy a home and you think about what are all the things that you want to improve in your home and raising your family in that home and all of that. And so one of the things that I was really concerned about was you could say any part of San Jose was too unsafe to live in, was not okay with me. So I met a lot of the people running for office. I liked all of them, but I asked myself this question: who was going to be more focused, more forceful, and more focused on the details than I would be? And what I wanted was San Jose to be a safe place for everyone. And that's ultimately why I ran for office the first time. And the reason I've stayed in office, honestly, is because at a local level, local government, you can do so much. I mean, you can do things fast. Like as a member of the city council, I worked with my neighborhoods to make sure that we doubled the amount of neighborhood park space in downtown San Jose, doubled it while I was in office. We built mid-rise housing for the first time ever. We built affordable housing, 10,000 units of affordable housing. I mean, we did a lot, and I'm, not just excited about it, but what really, really got my attention was, and I'm sure you can appreciate this, is that our ability to help people in our community be engaged in their government, be excited about their government, trust that their voice is being heard, and resulting in improvements in the community is exactly what government's supposed to be doing. And that's why I love local government.
I absolutely agree. Yes. Now, given all your experience in public office, not only in your current position, but as a member of the San Jose City Council and having actually previously served as vice mayor of San Jose, what would be some of your goals if you were to be elected as mayor?
Well, thank you for the question. I would want to make San Jose the safest big city in America again, as it was when I was on the city council. I would want to make sure we were moving much more quickly to house the homeless. I would want to make sure that we were moving to build more affordable housing more quickly because so many of us want our kids and grandkids to stay here. And I would want to get San Jose cleaned up again. I mean, really clean. It is a beautiful city, and right now it's a mess.
Over the last several years, San Jose has experienced a shortage of police officers, which has been one of the contributing factors to an increase in crime, shorter response time for 911 emergency calls, and a decrease in the public feeling more safe in their own homes and even out in the streets or, just shopping, driving. Quite frankly, there has also been somewhat of a lack of repercussions for serial offenders when it pertains to vandalism or theft. There's been stores closing down in the Bay Area because they cannot control the amount of theft that they're experiencing. If elected mayor, how will you address these issues, and what are the main challenges you foresee in this role?
So when I served on the city council 16 years ago, we had 200 more police officers 16 years ago than we do today in San Jose, and we have 100,000 more people. In addition to that, for priority 2 calls, and that's a call where there's been an assault, but maybe the perpetrator isn't there anymore. We used to get there in under 10 minutes. Now it's taking 20. And I've heard from more than one resident, and I'm sure you have too, that they've dialed 911 and no one has come. That is because we do not have enough officers. And the other thing we need is you need to have officers and you need to have a robust number of investigators, because the way you address repeat offenders is you catch them, you do the investigations, and then they go through the prosecution process. Right now, we don't have enough officers and we don't have enough investigators to cover all the needs of San Jose. And as a matter of fact, this last weekend, we had so many incidents of violence over the Halloween weekend on Saturday that every single person who was on swing shift had a mandatory overtime, and they still weren't able to get to every call for service. What I would want to do is take the money that the city spent in overtime, carve out a piece of that, and start spending it on new officers. So over the last 5 years, the city of San Jose has invested $45 million a year in overtime. 45 million. What that tells you is we have enough money to hire full-time officers. What the city did in June was the current council said, okay, let's add 20 officers. 20. I already told you we had 200 less than we should. 20 officers. And then 15 officers a year for the next 5 years. 15. To me, that does not demonstrate that the city understands this is a crisis and that people who live in this city want to be able to dial 911 and have someone show up. And so what I'm advocating is that we go to 50 officers, hiring 50 officers a year, and at the same time do a staffing plan that can look at all the other ways that we can support officers so they're not so stretched that they can respond to calls for service, especially those that are where they're needed, and also making sure that we have enough resources to do the investigating we need to do. I want San Jose to be the safest big city in America again, as it was when I was on the council. And I think one of the ways to do that is to make sure we hire enough officers quickly.
Great. What is your current stance on legal gun ownership and our current mayor's requirement for liability insurance? Should there be more requirements set in place for current and future gun owners?
Yeah, that's a really, really thoughtful question. And I understand why the mayor took the action he did. And part of the reason for that is that as a community, as a county, and on the government side, we spend about $72 million a year to address gun violence in our community. When you take into account all the impacts to families, businesses, and all of that, it's almost, I believe it's like $500 million a year that we spend because of gun ownership. I'm not gun ownership, I'm sorry, of people using firearms and hurting themselves or each other. So I think what he was trying to do was make sure that we were covering the cost of the impacts of guns. The truth of the matter is we have a lot of rules on the books, and one of them that we don't do nearly enough with is red flag laws. And what that means is that people who shouldn't have firearms in the first place get those firearms removed from them. I've led at the county to make sure that we have a gun team that is able to do the investigations, organize those removals, and get those prohibited firearms from those prohibited persons. And the reason that's so important is we don't want any one of them to be able to shoot themselves or someone else. So that's kind of job one. The other thing I'll just add is that I'm also asked the county to work with all the cities in our community to create gun teams so that they can remove guns from prohibited persons and do it in a more robust manner, especially for those that are high risk. We know San Jose doesn't have enough officers, but what I'm hoping is that if San Jose can team up with all the other cities, we can have gun teams that are multi-jurisdictional and can go get prohibited firearms from people who are most at risk of using them again.
Thank you. San Jose is currently facing a shortage in housing, as you mentioned earlier, which is partially to blame for the current homelessness crisis. The housing plans that were proposed for the homeless in previous years have what some would say excessive cost per unit and are moving at a much slower rate as far as construction goes. If elected mayor, how do you plan on addressing those issues? And what are your goals for making sure that there's enough staffing in places where it comes to coding and planning and so forth, where it will somewhat balance out the supply and demand issue that we currently have so that, it balances out more rather than drifts further and further apart?
So the city of San Jose and all cities are responsible for building housing for their residents. And over the last 10 years, what the city did is the city made some changes to their general plan and to their processes that dropped the number of permits that were coming forward to the city by 25%. What's significant about that is that I estimate that what they lost was about 10,000 units of housing. And so the point you raise, which is really a valid one, is that when we look at homelessness in any major city, the number one indicator that you're going to have a big homeless population is that housing is incredibly expensive, which it is here. So building more housing and then building more affordable housing along the continuum of affordability is what San Jose needs to do in order to address its homelessness problem. And the city needs to change those rules. And that would be one of the first things I focus on as mayor of San Jose, is getting those rules snapped back into place so that we're able to build and open up that pipeline for housing that we know we so desperately need. So that's the first thing. The second thing is as it relates to the cost of housing, one of the challenges we have is that as a community, we need to build permanent housing, because if you build only temporary housing, those people that are in those temporary shelters are going to need to get into permanent housing eventually. And so if you're not building the permanent housing, then, the challenge is that it doesn't matter how inexpensive the temporary housing is, we're going to be in the same boat as soon as that temporary housing falls apart and that person doesn't have the resources that they need to get into a permanent development. So as an example, at least one of the developments that the county's investing in, because it's interim housing, the prefabricated interim housing, they're almost $271,000, $300,000 a door. On average, we're spending, I think it's $650,000 a door for permanent housing. But that permanent housing is going to last 60 years. That temporary housing is slated to last for 15. So I think we have to look at investment in the most broad terms, being very thoughtful, very judicious with our community's money, but not falling for, a quick fix that it frankly doesn't fix anything, because it's going to create a revolving door of homelessness.
Okay. From what I've read, there has been some progress, somewhat. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there's been around 19,000 or so homeless that have been housed in the last few years. Now, the number still continues to increase of homelessness. Do you think that despite all those thousands already having been housed, do you feel that the continuous increase of rent prices and the lack of home ownership, do you think that is a contributing factor to the homeless number increasing, even while being able to house a good number of them?
Yeah, that's a very thoughtful question, because the bottom line question we're all asking ourselves is, how do we do a better job of making sure people have safe, healthy places to live, right? And that's really the question that you're asking. And I think a part of that, a really important part of that, is making sure that we're building enough housing. And remember that over the last 10 years, as homelessness has increased, the city of San Jose has built less housing. So right there, we see a disconnect between the housing availability and the housing stock and the number of people who become homeless. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we haven't been building housing along the affordability continuum. So one of the things that we have here in Santa Clara County and in San Jose is we have a lot of people who are homeless that are senior citizens, and many of them are on fixed income. So what's happened is their income has stayed kind of static, right? And then housing prices have gone up and up and up. So you have people or losing a spouse or something changing or losing a job. And because people are spending more of their paycheck on housing, you're supposed to spend about 30% of your paycheck on your housing. But if you're spending 50% or 60% and that rent goes up or you lose a job, you're at risk of being on the street. So you ask a powerful question, which is, what are all the things that we need to do, right, to address this? We need to build more housing of all types. We need to build more affordable housing, including low income and very low income, so we don't have seniors being put out on the street. We need to make sure that as we're housing people who have serious mental health needs and drug and alcohol needs, that we're getting them the services they need so they stay housed. And by the way, in our county, we're keeping those people housed at about a 90% rate over 3 years, which is very high, actually, for that. And in addition to that, we need to recognize that there are some communities that we can keep from becoming homeless in the first place. So we spend a lot of money getting people housed, but what can we do to keep people in the housing they're in so that we're housing people as quickly as we can and keeping people housed and using all the different tools that we have so we can squeeze that number to a functional zero? That's really what the goal has to be.
Great. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I know that you're still at your campaign office. Is that correct?
I am, yes.
Yeah, so thank you very much for this interview. I know you have a busy schedule, so we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. And best of luck to you with this coming election.
Well, and thank you so much to AGN and to your network. And I really want to thank you for the very thoughtful questions. This is an important opportunity for San Jose. And the way I look at it is that we have a lot of change to make. And just to share this with you, I have been endorsed by 9 out of the 10 council members who currently serve on the city council. Obviously, Matt didn't support me, but the other 9 did. And everybody, all the major candidates for mayor have also endorsed me. And I think the reason for that is they're ready for change, they're ready to focus, and they really want to get this work done. They want to help me make San Jose shine again. So I just appreciate you taking the time and the interest to focus on this amazing city that we all love so much.
It's been our pleasure. Thank you for having us as well.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. That was Cindy Chavez, one of the candidates for the 2022 mayoral election. I'm Karoline Lazar, and this is AGN. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we hope to see you on the next segment.
أنا إيوان ماري نارسي
وأنا إيفن جون بابانتا
وآها إلى خا أجرتا قبل أمتن أطوراي قخيانة ستانسلاس كاوني
نسبة البرشياتا. أمريكا إلى قطرة خيروتا مودي لأومن ديت كم صغودك بدا خيروتا كم صغ مرمخ قالا قد أوخ فيش الشمية
ماسخ مرمخ لقالا قد هاوخ شمية بدا خيروتا
قبود أها جرقاتك موي دالو جابخ بارسوبو قانون قحكمن
خيانة ستانسلاس كاوني متيمون البالا ققالة ديوخون هاو شمية
يوم تخارت برشياتي إلى 8 بتشرين تريانا ين نوفمبر 8 بشيت ترألبو وإسري تري.
On October 10th, جو ستانسلاس كاوني قان برسوبة دا من قمدانا مكتوين الشمانة ماسي شقلي بالت جو بوست.
إن عزيتون أو register to vote.ca.gov كمسيتون مكتبيتون للشموخن.
ماسيتون مدوريتون لبالت جو بوست يعني جو صندوقة official ballot.
إن بايتون كمسيتون عزيتون أو قنطرون برشياتو وماليتون ورقوخن هرتامو.
إن بايتون ماسيتون طلبيتون ballot ريشانة سورة من بالاخ تاما.
شموخن كتويتون ين مايتون شخلات لنتن. ماسيتون شخليتون هيارتا جوليشان سورة إن بيلوخن.
ماسيتون أزيتون جو كدوكت قنطرونة برشياتي جو ستانسلاس كاوني.
إن بس مالوخن شادرنا أن بالت ديوخن بجلدوتا قد لا بشيتون أن خارايا بيومت جابتا.
أنا بالت دين الشضر الجلدة قمتها بتبشي بنية اليومت برشياتي.
قامت شقتت قنطرونة برشياتي ماسيتون أزيتون على www.stanvote.com أبيتون روا باسيمة.